All right, guys, welcome back. What do we have today? We have the very much non-suspicious contract of NBA superstar Gary Trent Jr. Give it up, everybody. Give it up. Give it up, right? So, today we're talking about one of the strangest stories of this NBA offseason. And not because of a blockbuster trade, right? That would be too easy. Not because of a superstar requesting out, right? No. But because of a contract. Gary Trent Jr. just agreed to a 4-year, $64 million contract with the Milwaukee Bucks. Normally, that wouldn't dominate headlines, right? Players get paid every offseason. But this deal is different. It's reportedly significant enough that the NBA has opened an investigation into how it happened. So today we're breaking down three main things. Why this contract shocked the league, why the NBA believes something may not be adding up, and what could happen if the Milwaukee Bucks actually broke the rules. So let's get into it, right? How did we get here? To understand the investigation, we have to rewind a couple of years. Gary Trent Jr. wasn't viewed as a fringe NBA player, right? Early in his career with Portland and Toronto, he was considered one of the better 3-and-D wings in basketball. He averaged around 18 points per game, could create his own shot, and was one of the league's better volume 3-point shooters. Excuse the cat in the background right there. That is Felix. Then everything changed. His market cooled dramatically, right? Instead of signing a lucrative long-term contract, Trent accepted a minimum deal with Milwaukee in 2024. And that surprised some folks. Then instead of cashing in the following summer, he once again signed well below what many believed his market value could be, right? We talking 3-and-D. 3-and-D in basketball is like gold. Everybody wants a 3-and-D. At the time, people assumed he was betting on himself, right? Maybe he'd rebuild his value. Maybe he'd help Milwaukee contend. Maybe the bigger payday would come later. And folks, I'm here to tell you, later is here. Because after 2 bargain contracts, Trent suddenly lands a 4-year deal worth roughly $64 million. And that's exactly why the NBA started asking questions. Because Gary Trent Jr. and $64 million in the Big 26 should not be 2 phrases in the same sentence ever. Here's where things get interesting. The investigation isn't because Gary Trent received $64 million, right? Teams overpay for players all the time, every year, right? The NBA isn't in the business of deciding what someone is worth. Instead, they're investigating whether Milwaukee and Gary Trent Jr. had an illegal agreement years ago. In NBA terms, that is what we call, my basketball folks, salary cap circumvention, right? So imagine this scenario. A team tells a player, take a discount now, help us stay under the cap, and we'll make it up to you later. Once we have your bird rights, just help me out. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. If that conversation happened, even verbally, that would violate the collective bargaining agreement, my people. Teams cannot promise future contracts in exchange for players accepting smaller salaries today. Every contract must stand on its own. If there was a handshake agreement from the beginning, that's illegal. And that's exactly why the league is trying to determine, right? So, now, to be fair, Gary Trent did have moments where he reminded everyone of the player he once was. He shot the ball well at times. He defended hard at times. And in the playoffs, he had several explosive scoring performances, right? That reminded everyone why teams liked him coming out of the six. Toronto, right? But here's the issue. During the regular season, he averaged just over 8 points per game. He wasn't an all-star. He wasn't sixth man of the year. He wasn't viewed league-wise as someone about to command $16 million annually. So executives around the NBA looked at this contract and immediately said, pause. Right? What changed? How does a player coming off arguably the weakest statistical season of their career suddenly receive one of the biggest raises of the offseason? What are we doing? And that's what fueled the skepticism around the league. So, the bird rights angle. This is where salary cap strategy comes into play, because Milwaukee had Trent on consecutive contracts, right? They acquired what's known as early bird rights. Those rights allow a team to exceed the salary cap to re-sign its own player. It's one of the biggest advantages teams have when retaining their talent, right? And that's perfectly legal, by the way. The problem only exists if Milwaukee intentionally used those earlier below market contracts as part of a larger plan, a grand scheme, an evil plan, Dr. Doofenshmirtz. If the idea was sign cheap now and we'll reward you later, that's where the NBA steps in. Using bird rights isn't illegal. Using them as part of a prearranged promise is very illegal. That's the distinction investigators are trying to make. So, what evidence would the league need to bring down this great Gary Trent Jr. conspiracy? This is not an easy investigation, I'll tell you that. Right? The NBA can't punish a team because people on social media think a contract is strange. They need evidence. And that could include emails, text messages, phone records, conversations between agents and team executives, internal documents, and testimony from people involved. They need snitches. Who's gonna snitch? If they can't prove there was a prior agreement, then the contract stands. Being surprising isn't against the rules. Being prearranged is against the rules, right? And this is not the first time. Longtime NBA fans might remember the Joe Smith scandal involving the Minnesota Timberwolves. Back then, prehistoric times, right? The league determined Minnesota had made secret promises about future contracts. The punishment was severe. Draft picks were taken away. Executives lost their jobs. The contracts themselves became a major cautionary tale around the National Basketball Association. That's why, whenever a situation even resembles that case, the league pays attention. Nobody wants another Joe Smith situation, right? Could Milwaukee actually be innocent? Yes. There's another explanation. Maybe Milwaukee simply believes Gary Trent is worth that contract. I'm going to look at you at home. I'm looking at you folks at home. If you was an NBA GM today, do you believe Gary Trent Jr. is a $16 million player? Are you betting on him to get better? Hold up. Hey Siri. How old is Gary Trent Jr.? 27. He's entering his prime. I'm just saying, it's not far off. He could come out next year, no Giannis. 25 points per game. 2018 Oladipo kind of run, right? Jimmy Butler 2020 playoffs kind of run, right? Maybe they value his playoff shooting. Maybe they think he'll thrive in a larger offensive role, right? Maybe the rest of the league simply underestimated his market. Teams evaluate players differently all the time. The existence of an investigation does not mean the Bucks violated any rules. It simply means the NBA believes the circumstances deserve a closer look. And folks, there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing at all. From a basketball perspective, Gary Trent getting paid is a great story. I'm never mad at a player for getting their bread. A player bets on himself, sticks with one organization, and eventually lands life-changing money. But from a league perspective, this deal raises one enormous question. Was this simply Milwaukee rewarding a player that they believed in? Or was the real negotiation happening years ago? That's exactly what the NBA is now trying to answer, right? Until investigators find concrete evidence, the Bucks deserve the benefit of the doubt. But if the league discovers there really was a promise made before Trent signed those earlier discount deals, the consequences could extend far beyond one contract. That was one of my panels falling. Don't worry about that. And that's why what looks like an ordinary free agent signing has suddenly become one of the biggest stories of this NBA offseason. But anyway, if you ask me, my opinion, are the Bucks innocent? I don't know. But one thing I can tell you is if I was the GM and I gave Gary Trent Jr. $64 million, I am either horrible at my job and deserve to be fired, or I'm scamming.